us lives that were completely oriented around loving him. And I think that would have been a fairly easy life. All we knew was the love of God, and how to best love God would be our only concern. We could have spent our days singing praises to God, worshiping him day and night, and not really knowing that any other option existed. To me, that sounds okay. But surprisingly, that wasn't God's will for us. I searched for a long while to try and find a verse in the Bible that said why God gave us free will. But I didn't find one. And I don't think there is one because we can't explain why God gave us free will. Like, God created Eve because he wanted Adam to have a partner. God flooded the earth because he was angry at the evilness of humanity. God gave us Jesus because he is merciful. And maybe because he realized that some of his other methods weren't really working out all that well. But God giving us free will isn't explained anywhere. So here's my opinion. I think God gave us free will so that he could show his love for us. Wow, I know, what a hard conclusion to come to. But I also think that he gave us free will so that we could show our love back to him, and so that he could feel our love for himself. God only wanted us to do three things: to love him, love his son, and love his creation. And if he could force us into doing these things, would it have been genuine love? I want you to imagine for a moment that you just got a new pet cat. I know a lot of you may not like cats, but they're pretty known for their indifference. So I chose cat for that reason. Now, you just got this new cat. You love it. It's the cutest little cat you've ever seen in your life. And all you want to do is build a bond with this cat. So when do you feel more loved? When you squeeze the cat tight and you don't let it go. It has to sit right there in your lap and it has to love you. Or when you put the cat down and you let it do what it wants. Half the time it pretends like you're not even in the same room. But sometimes it'll come up to you, jump in your lap while you're sitting on the couch, and just curl into your lap. And you can feel its warmth on your legs, and you can hear its soft little purrs. In this scenario, we are the cat. God didn't want to force us into loving him. He wanted us to have the choice to love him because it makes him feel our love. It makes him feel genuinely wanted. I mean, that's just what I think. The whole good thing about this free will concept is you're free to choose what you like. And what I think is really cool is that God said, all right, I'm going to let you make your own decisions. Don't screw it up. And as a history, if you look at the history of mankind, that's sort of all we tend to do. But then God gave us the Bible, a how-to guide on free will. Or, I really liked the way that Julie said it, basic instructions before leaving the earth. The Bible is basically a book of do's and don'ts on handling our free will. Do, love one another. Do, love the earth that God created. Do, accept Jesus as your Savior. If you do these things, God will be absolutely thrilled. Don't enslave his people. Don't disobey the 10 Commandments. And don't be afraid. If you do these things, God will be a little less thrilled. to make so many mistakes with our free will. And there are so many do's and don'ts in the Bible that it can be extremely confusing. There is not a single person on this earth right now who can follow every single do and don't in the Bible. But here's the good news. We don't have to be perfect. Because God loved us so much that he sent his Son to atone for our sin. God loved us so much that he sacrificed his most perfect lamb. And had God never given us free will in the first place, we never would have got to experience that love. And God never would have got to show us that much love. Now, we are made in God's image. And all God has done since the beginning of creation is to love us. Yes, sometimes it was extremely tough love, but it was love nonetheless. So it should come as no surprise that the number one command, the number one do in the Bible is to love one another. 1 John 4:7. Love one another, for love is of God. He who loves is born of God and knows God. Luke chapter 6, verse 35. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Mark chapter 12, verse 31. The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. The first commandment, of course, being to love the Lord. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 14. Let all that you do be done in love. 1 Peter 4:8. Above all, maintain constant love for one another, for love covers a multitude of sins. Those are just some of my favorites. But I could go on and on and on all day long, just talking about the verses in the Bible telling us to love each other. But I don't think you want to sit here that long. No, I don't really want to stand up here that long. This road gets really hot. So, anyways, free will gives us the option to choose all of our actions, from which cereal to eat in the morning, all the way to how to act on our love for God. Our love will never, ever be equal to the love that God has shown us. But we can try. That is our choice. We can choose to ignore God's love. We can choose to turn our backs on him. We can choose to take his advice, but only when it's really convenient for us. Or we can choose to love God with everything that we have. And the number one way that we do that is by loving one another and loving the rest of God's creation. This is what Jesus and the disciples have told us to do. Because when we choose to love, the rest of the good things fall right into place. When you love someone, you're kind to them. When you love someone, you're proud of their accomplishments, even if they're greater than your own. You're honest with them, because you know lying would hurt them. You do randomly nice things just to see them smile. You feed them, because seeing them hungry would break your heart. You lead them to Christ, so that they can experience the amazing love that you feel every single day, and the love that you have been trying to reflect. Love is all about our actions. If we say we love someone, but don't do anything to show it, our words mean nothing. And when we get to choose our actions, there are a lot of things that I know we don't get to choose. We don't get to choose our emotions. We don't get to choose our skin color. We don't get to choose the actions of others. But we get to choose how we react. to the things that we can't choose. For example, I could come up here and tell you that your favorite movie is The Lion King. I can tell you that because it's my favorite, so it should be yours too. But if I did that, I would walk out of this room very disappointed because I'm very sure that not all of you are as much of a Lion King fan as I am. I can't choose what you believe. I can't choose what you do. But I can choose to love you anyways. With a certain political race happening right now, it can be extremely difficult to love people that have a different opinion than our own. Because our opinions right now are so right in front of us. And I know that I don't show as much love as I should to people with different opinions than my own at this point. And honestly, I find it the hardest to love someone who has grounded their life in hatred of others. But those are the people that I need to love the most. Because loving God isn't about what's easiest. It's about how to best love the Lord. And I don't think that it's possible to like every single person on the planet. And I don't think that you'll agree with everything that you hear. And honestly, you shouldn't. But you can show these people kindness. You can show them respect because you love them as a person. And you love them because they are God's creation. Because you know God's love and you want to show that love to the world. There's a lot of hate out there right now. Not everything is about kittens and sunshine, like I really wish it could be. So we need to choose to be that beacon of love. A beacon that others will see and maybe choose to follow in our example and end a cycle of hatred. Our God is a God of love. He showed us the ultimate love by sacrificing His Son for us. So how can we share that love with others? What can we do to love someone that's different than ourselves? Know love and to know God. Show our love and show our God, or show no love and show no God. That is our choice. John writes, "Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and His love is made complete in us."